you probably thought Johnny Depp was finally back on top, didn't you? After that long, brutal, public court battle with his ex, it really seemed like he'd finally cleared his name. Like the storm was over and he was finally going to get the Hollywood comeback everyone was waiting for. Fans all over the world rallied behind him, hashtags trended for weeks, and people cheered when the verdict came down. And for a little while, it really felt like things were finally going his way. But the truth? Hollywood doesn't forget that easily. And as much as everyone wants to believe in a happy ending, Johnny's future might not be as secure as people thought. What's even more surprising, is that the person making headlines about him right now isn't some studio executive or former co-star. It's his own daughter. Yep, Lily Rose Depp, his beautiful, talented daughter, just opened up about her relationship with her father. And even though she made it clear she loves him, she also made it clear she's stepping back from his chaos. And honestly, that's got a lot of people wondering what that means for Johnny moving forward. Now, if you're sitting there thinking you're the only one who's confused, don't worry. You're not alone. A lot of us have been rooting for Johnny. We've watched him go through years of humiliation, seen him lose role after role, lose friends, lose his good name. People called him a monster before the facts came out. And when the trial ended in his favor, it felt like justice. It felt like he could finally breathe again. That maybe we'd see him headlining movies again, walking red carpets, being celebrated like he used to be. But here's the thing about Hollywood. It's not just about the court of law. It's about the court of public opinion. And that's a much trickier thing to win. Recently, Lily Rose, who's been making waves in her own career as a model and actress, was asked about how she felt being Johnny Depp's daughter during such a controversial time. And her answer? Well, it was honest. Maybe a little too honest. She said, "I want to be known for my own work. I'm my own person. I'm not here to represent anyone else's battles." Now, that might not sound harsh at first. And she didn't say it with anger. But when you really think about it, she's basically saying she doesn't want to be dragged into her dad's drama. That she doesn't want her name tied to the baggage that comes with being Johnny's daughter. And that hits different when you remember everything he's been through to clear his name. It's one of those comments that doesn't necessarily mean she's turned against him. Not at all. In fact, by all accounts, they still have a loving relationship. But she's also a young woman trying to build her own career. And she's smart enough to know that being linked too closely to someone Hollywood still considers risky, could hurt her chances. And that right there is the problem Johnny's up against. Even though he technically won the case, he's still seen as controversial. He still makes studio executives nervous. He still carries a certain amount of baggage that some producers just don't want to deal with. And when your own daughter says, even politely, that she doesn't want to be part of that baggage, that just reinforces the idea that Johnny is still complicated. Now, to be fair, Lily Rose isn't wrong for feeling that way. She's worked hard to create her own identity. She's been modeling for Chanel since she was a teenager. She's starred in movies. She just wrapped a big HBO series that got a ton of buzz. And she wants people to see her as her own person. Not just as Johnny Depp's daughter. Can you blame her? At the same time though, it does create a tricky situation for Johnny. Because even though he's made progress, there are still people in Hollywood who see him as a gamble. As someone who could still bring drama to a production. Someone who's not safe. And that's where he has to be smart about his next moves. See, there are a few things working in his favor. First and most obvious, his fans still absolutely adore him. His concerts with his band, sold out. His art exhibitions, huge successes. His smaller, independent films, still met with love and curiosity. People still want to see what he does next. But there's also a downside to that. Because as much as fans love him, big studios care more about money than loyalty. And when they think a star might hurt ticket sales or attract bad press, they hesitate. That's why Johnny's been leaning more into European films and indie projects lately. He just finished filming a French-language movie, and he's already talking about his next passion project. Smaller budgets, smaller audiences, but a lot more creative freedom. And honestly, that seems to be what he prefers these days. He's even said in interviews that he doesn't care about playing the Hollywood game anymore. He's not interested in sucking up to the same people who turned their backs on him. He wants to make art that speaks to him. But even if Johnny's okay with that, the truth is, everyone loves a redemption arc. People love to see someone fall, pick themselves up, and come back even stronger. And Johnny still has the potential to do that, if he plays it right. So what should he do? Well, a few things. For starters, he needs to keep focusing on smaller, critically acclaimed roles. Hollywood may not trust him yet, but award shows love a comeback story. One strong performance in the right movie, and the conversation around him could change overnight. He also needs to stay out of trouble. No more headlines. No more lawsuits. No more messy interviews. The quieter he stays, the easier it is for people to focus on his work instead of his personal life. And finally, he needs to embrace being a good dad. If he publicly supports Lily Rose, celebrates her career, and shows the world that he's proud of her even when she distances herself a little, that could actually work in his favor. People respect that kind of humility. That kind of love. And here's something most people don't realize, Lily Rose's comments could actually help Johnny if he responds with grace. Instead of being defensive, he could simply say, "She's her own woman, and I couldn't be prouder." That flips the whole narrative and makes him look like the bigger person. Because you see, in situations like this, it's never just about the words spoken, it's about the way you react to them. Everyone is watching. Every studio, every journalist, every fan. Everyone wants to see how Johnny handles being subtly distanced by his own daughter in public. And this is where real character shows. He could very easily make the mistake of coming off bitter or hurt. He could take offense, as many parents might, and say something like, "After everything I've done for her, this is how she speaks about me." He could vent in an interview or on social media. He could let that pain seep through in the way he talks about her. And let's be honest, that would only reinforce the narrative that he's hard to work with. That he's still messy. That the chaos still follows him wherever he goes. But if he does the opposite, if he takes the high road, it changes everything. If he smiles and says, calmly and lovingly, "She's her own woman, and I couldn't be prouder," then suddenly he takes back the power in the narrative. He shows everyone that he respects her independence. That he understands why she said what she said. And that kind of grace, that kind of confidence, is what wins hearts, and Hollywood knows it. Because at the end of the day, what people really want to see from Johnny right now is not more drama. Not more fighting. Not more headlines. They want to see that he's grown from everything he's been through. That he's wiser now. That he's not the kind of man who crumbles at criticism, even if it stings. They want to see a father who can be proud of his daughter even when she needs to step away from him to stand on her own 2 feet. And the beautiful thing about that kind of response is, it's real. It's relatable. Every parent knows what it feels like to raise a child, to pour your whole soul into them, and then watch them grow into someone who maybe doesn't need you the same way anymore. That's life. That's what parenting is supposed to be. You raise them so they can become their own person. So they can have their own voice, even if it means sometimes that voice doesn't sound like yours. For Johnny to say something like, "She's her own woman, and I couldn't be prouder," he doesn't just sound like a good dad, he reminds everyone why they loved him in the first place. Because deep down, Johnny Depp has always been a little bit of a rebel. Always been someone who respects people who stand on their own. Someone who doesn't fit into a mold. So why would he expect his daughter to be any different? And think about the message that sends to his fans. It tells them, I love her no matter what. She can choose her own path, and I'll still be here cheering her on. That's powerful. That's human. That's the kind of thing that makes people forget the court cases, forget the scandals, and just see the man behind it all. It also sends a subtle message to Hollywood, that he's not clinging to the past. That he's not desperate to drag his daughter into his story just to make himself look better. That he's strong enough to let her shine without trying to control her narrative. And in an industry where image is everything, that kind of humility can work wonders. Even beyond Hollywood though, that kind of response is just the right thing to do. Lily Rose is at the start of her career. She's still figuring out who she is, both in front of the camera and behind closed doors. She's allowed to draw her boundaries. She's allowed to protect herself. And Johnny knows what this industry can do to a person's soul, maybe better than anyone else. If he truly loves her, the best thing he can do is step back and let her define herself. And when you really think about it, isn't that what Johnny always wanted for himself too? The freedom to be who he is without having to explain himself to anyone. If he wants that for himself, then it only makes sense that he'd want it for her too. People love a redemption arc, but what they love even more is grace under pressure. They love seeing someone handle hurt with dignity. Someone who refuses to add fuel to the fire, even when the world expects them to. And that's exactly what this could be for Johnny. A chance to show that after everything, all the chaos, all the loss, all the pain, he's still capable of kindness. Still capable of love. Still capable of being the bigger person. It's also worth mentioning how this would play to the press. The media loves to twist words. If he snapped back at her, if he got defensive or petty, it would be front-page news within minutes. Johnny slams daughter for betraying him, you can almost see the headlines already. But if he keeps his response simple, loving, and supportive, suddenly the media has nothing to sensationalize. All they can do is report what he actually said. And even they might have to admit, it's kind of beautiful. In a way, Lily Rose's comment gives Johnny the perfect opportunity to remind the world of who he really is. Not the villain some painted him as during the trial. Not the victim either. But just, a man. A father. A human being who's made mistakes, but who still knows how to show love and respect where it's due. And let's not forget what that does for his relationship with Lily Rose herself. Behind the cameras, behind the headlines, this is still a father and a daughter. And relationships like that are fragile. If he were to lash out, he could hurt her deeply. But if he takes this as a chance to tell her, and the whole world, that he respects her independence and is proud of her no matter what, that's the kind of thing that can bring them even closer. Because at the end of the day, she's his little girl. And he's still her dad. It's moments like these that show you who someone really is. And for Johnny, after everything he's endured, after all the times people doubted him, all the times they called him washed up or broken, this is his chance to show that he's more than the mistakes. That he's more than the headlines. That he's still capable of rising above. That simple line, she's her own woman, and I couldn't be prouder, might not sound like much. But it says everything. It says he's grown. It says he understands. And it says that no matter what Hollywood decides to do with him, no matter who tries to tear him down again, he still has the one thing that really matters, love. And honestly, that's what makes Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp. The man who never quite fits the mold. Who never quite plays by the rules. Who can still surprise you with his heart, just when you least expect it. And that's why we keep watching. That's why we keep rooting for him. Because even when the world writes him off, he finds a way to remind us who he really is. And this could be his most important reminder yet. Because let's be honest. Johnny's always been a little unpredictable. A little messy. But that's also what makes him so fascinating. You never really know what he's going to do next. And that's kind of why we all love him, isn't it? He's never been the cookie-cutter Hollywood leading man. He's raw. He's real. He's complicated. And even after everything he's been through, he still has this undeniable charm. This quiet power that makes you want to root for him. So where does that leave him now? Honestly, nobody knows. And maybe that's exactly the way Johnny likes it. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think? Should Johnny fight to get back into the big studio system? Or should he keep doing his own thing and ignore the Hollywood politics? Let me know in the comments, I'll be reading every single one. And hey, if you liked this deep dive, you're going to love my other video about the biggest Hollywood comebacks of all time. You won't believe some of the names on that list. Before you go, don't forget to hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And tap that little bell icon so you never miss what's coming next. Because if Johnny Depp's taught us anything, it's that you never really know what's waiting around the corner. Thanks for spending a little time with me today. I'll see you in the next one.